Mission log, day 2. So your research says your body needs water, but your body needs food too, and the food you're growing needs water. Is one party receiving water more important than the other? Do they all need the same amount of water? You read the following to decide whether you can ration the amount of water you do have access to among all those who need it. Importance of fresh water. In order for humans to live, they need access to fresh water. While nearly 70% of the Earth's surface is water, most of it is salt water, which humans cannot drink. Only a small percentage, about 3%, is fresh water. Of this, about 69% is currently frozen as ice caps in glaciers, while another 30% is held underground in the soil or in rock. This means that only 1% of the world's fresh water, or 0.03% of the world's total water, is surface water that humans can access to drink. The small amount of potable, suitable for drinking, water makes its conservation incredibly important so that water shortages already occurring in some regions do not spread further. If they do spread, this may lead to conflicts over the right to use this water. There are many ways in which humans can affect access to fresh water. For example, humans can pollute bodies of water, thereby making them undrinkable. In some cases, they may make physical changes to the land by building over wetlands or damming up rivers. While wealthy countries can afford to make the investments necessary to make sure their residents have access to fresh water, poorer countries often cannot. This means that poorer countries are at greater risk of devastating droughts, which can lead both to dehydration and starvation, as the country is unable to water its crops. Droughts can also have a negative impact on the biodiversity of a region. Biodiversity refers to an abundance of different types of plant and animal species within a particular region. The prefix bio means living, while diversity refers to different types of things. Around the world, more than 125,000 animal species live entirely in freshwater habitats, including 15,000 species of fish, 4,300 species of amphibians, and 5,000 species of mollusks, such as clams and oysters. Millions of other species, including humans, depend on fresh water to drink. When an area loses a large percentage of its fresh water, many animals die off. In some cases, species go entirely extinct. This leads to a decrease in the region's biodiversity. While droughts are natural and in many places a frequent occurrence, there are many things that humans do to increase the severity of these droughts. For one thing, the world's population has doubled in the last 50 years. So humans have been using much more fresh water to drink and grow crops than they did in the past. Humanity's increasing water consumption represents a growing threat to biodiversity. In Africa, where droughts are common, they have been more prolonged than in the past. This is due in part to climate change, as well as a greater demand for water as the continent's population has increased. During a drought in Kenya that lasted from 2007 to 2009, over 60 elephants died, some of dehydration, others of starvation due to a lack of vegetation to eat, and others of diseases that became fatal due to the elephants' weakened states. Some other endangered animals, such as the white rhinoceros, died too, which brought them closer to extinction. When the biodiversity of a region declines, the human population suffers as well, in different ways. When a region experiences a significant drought, many animals may die from lack of water and food. If the region is one like Kenya, which depends on its wildlife to draw tourists, the effects of the drought can be devastating. If tourism declines due to high wildlife casualties, then the locals who depend on income from tourism will lose their livelihood. People may then turn to farming to earn money, but crops require water to grow. This can place further strain on the water supply and worsen the original problem of the drought. Sometimes an imbalance in the system, such as a lack of water, can enter into a feedback loop where the situation only gets worse and worse. Losses in biodiversity can also lead to problems with the availability of food. As we've discussed, a lack of water can prevent farmers from growing crops, which can lead to starvation. However, when a region loses its biodiversity, it disrupts the food chain in many ways. For example, if a species goes extinct, all the species used to feeding on it must find another source of food. Say a particular species of freshwater frog dies because its habitat has been depleted in a drought. This means the population of birds that feeds on this frog may decline as well, as it lacks sufficient food. Conversely, the insects that the frogs fed on may increase in number, as the frogs are no longer around to keep their population in check. One of the main advantages of biodiversity is that there are certain natural processes that plants and animals perform that humans simply cannot. The billions of bees in the world play a critical role in pollinating the world's flowers. If they do not do this, the food supply would dwindle and the human population would suffer greatly. Biodiversity can play an important function in the cleaning of water. When water passes through lakes, wetlands, and streams, it often encounters different species of fungi, algae, and bacteria. Many of these microbes actually filter microscopic particles out of the water, making it safe for humans to drink. Even some larger species do similar work. For example, the caddisfly constructs nets underwater that filter out different kinds of particles, which it then eats. Wetlands rich with these filtering organisms act as natural water filtration systems. When the biodiversity of a region declines, many of the organisms critical to this filtering process can disappear. Therefore, pressures on the freshwater supply can cause biodiversity to decrease, which can cut the drinkable water supply even further. While humans do have some water filtration plants, these plants are expensive and take a lot of energy to maintain. For centuries, the water that flowed into New York City was naturally filtered by a northern watershed. As the water turned south, it was purified. However, as the watershed was polluted and diverted, the water flowing to New York City was no longer filtered. The city faced a choice of spending $6 billion to $8 billion to build a water filtration plant, or just $1 billion to restore the natural watershed. The city wisely chose the latter option. Comprehension question. Number 1. Read this paragraph from How Water Loss Affects Biodiversity. When a region experiences a significant drought, many animals may die from lack of water and food. If tourism declines due to high wildlife casualties, then the locals who depend on income from tourism will lose their livelihood. People may then turn to farming to earn money, but crops require water to grow. This can place further strain on the water supply and worsen the original problem of the drought. What event can cause many animals to die from lack of food and water? You want to check the cause and effect of this paragraph. What causes what, which causes what, and what's the original thing that causes animals to die from lack of water and food? Number 2, in the same paragraph, how does the word when help show a cause and effect relationship? Think of another word that could possibly replace when, and what does it tell us about the relationship?